Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, Mike C-Roc. We're up in this house today with my man, John Malott. Guys, this is a gentleman that I've been familiar with from social media, watching from a distance. He said he knew who I was before this as well, but Clubhouse is where we really got connected. And I just reached out and said, dude, I got to get you on here because we got to find out what makes you tick. So, John, welcome to the What Are You Made Of show.
Man, thank you. C-Roc, it's a pleasure to be here, bro. I was just saying, we've been in the same kind of, atmosphere for a while. So it's cool that we finally connect, man. Your reputation preceded you. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And you and your beautiful wife, I see all the time on social media. And
I'm sorry.
But you got the tats and then your beautiful wife with you. And it's just like that gets attention, right? And then people want to know more. So you just started a product called Oh Snap, which we're going to get into in a second here. But before we do that, we have a ritual on this show of asking our guests, John, what are you made of?
I'm made of tenacity, bro. That tenacity is the word, because I just keep going, man. I just keep going, no matter what's been thrown at me, which has been interesting a lot. I've been knocked down so much. I've been looked over, pushed aside, shoved, that I just kept going, man. I always say I was just too stupid to quit. I was just too stupid to give up. I refused to let in. So I'm made of a whole lot of tenacity, and now today I'm sprinkling in some positivity. My daughter, I got 4 daughters. They're saying I'm getting soft.
Crap.
I'm a little soft. Yeah. By the way, if you have 4 daughters, you got to get rich, bro.
Damn,
night vision goggles.
I didn't know that
expensive.
about you. I didn't know that about you. I got 1 is enough, man. Jeez.
Oh man, yeah, 4. That's why. Look, this hair, it's not supposed to be so white, man. It's not.
At least you have it. At least you have it, son.
Well, my forehead's getting bigger. My forehead's definitely getting bigger.
Well. So with tenacity, and I'm sure some of the things that came your way are stuff that you had no control over. With others, like myself, we make decisions sometimes that lead to some stupid stuff that happens. But I want to dig deeper. You know me, man. I go deep. I want to find out what you're made of. So take us back to young John, where you grew up, and some of the things you went through that you still fuel off today.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't have all the things that society says you're supposed to have to be successful. My first felony arrest, I was 15 years old. I robbed a movie theater at gunpoint, and that didn't turn out so good for me. I end up, most of my teenage years, I was locked in a juvenile detention facility. When I was released, something that we now know today as the crack epidemic had hit our neighborhood pretty good in the 80s. And I always wanted to be this.
Where was that?
I grew up in Milwaukee, on the south side of Milwaukee.
Okay.
And I lived between Milwaukee and Chicago most of my life, but born in Milwaukee, and most of my time was there. And then I always want to be this capitalist. The guys in there were 2 types of people in my neighborhood: the capitalist and the consumer. And I thought, okay, the capitalist, he's got the cars, he's got the girls, he's got all the stuff that I thought I really wanted. But I didn't get the memo. Don't get high on your own supply. And at 17 years old, I had a heart attack from smoking cocaine.
Holy shit.
There were some circumstances around that led me to being locked in another facility, but this time it was a drug rehabilitation program for juveniles, troubled youth. And in there, this is where everything changed. So it was the blessing and the curse. Like I had nothing at this point. I had already destroyed all the relationships around me. Nobody wanted to be around me. I was just a complete mess. But there was a former outlaw motorcycle gang member by the name of Dave, and he was a counselor there. He was now helping kids. And it was the first time I got around someone who wasn't like preaching at me and telling me I ain't shit, because everyone around me was reinforcing, I'm a loser, I'm a drug addict, I'm a criminal, I'm a gang member, all this stuff. He was the first one that said, look, man, you're whatever you want to be. He said, you're here because of you. You blame the police, you blame the teachers, you blame your dad, you blame everybody, but it's you. You made an appointment to be here. And he said, for you, that's the bad news. He said, the good news is, you can make a new appointment, and I'll show you how to do it. And he was the first one, man, that really saw more in me than I saw in myself. And he said, quit being a baby, quit being a punk. He had used a lot of other words. And then he gave me a book. He gave me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that was the beginning. I didn't even know this kind of information existed in the world, man. And it like opened up this whole, it took me a while to digest it and kind of get it, because some of it seemed kind of corny and weird to me. But little by little, I started to grasp some of these concepts, and you know, it planted that first seed. Then he told me, because I'm like, bro, what am I going to do, man? I'm not built for sports. You know, I'm not a brainiac. I don't have all this stuff. And he said, business. He said, I'm telling you, business is your way out of the neighborhood. Business is your way out of this lifestyle and the circumstances. And I still didn't believe it then, but that seed was planted. You know, it's funny because C-Roc, later on, I wrote a book with Les Brown called The Power of One, the motivational speaker. By the way, terrible, terrible book. Les's part was great. My part sucked so bad. If anybody wants it, I'll send it to you, but only use it for like fire kindling or something. but it was Les Brown that would talk about, once your mind expands, it can never go back to its original dimensions. And that's kind of what happened, man, because I grew up in this household, my brother and my sister. My sister died at 21 years old from a heroin overdose. My brother's been in and out of prison his entire life and still it struggles massively with drug addiction and everything else. So it's weird that one person out of three, you know, takes this completely different path. You know, what some people would say, I got lucky or whatever, but it's just, you know what it is, man. What are you made of? You're made of the people you associate with. You're made of the information you're putting in your brain, you know, these things that you hold on to. And that's what I think shaped me so differently from my siblings and most of the people in my neighborhood. And it had such a big impact.
And what you do consistently every day.
Consistent. That's the thing, you know, because you know how we get, man. One day we got the lighters out. We're going to the top. And then you know, then something goes wrong and we're like in the fetal position, sucking our thumb, like, oh, woe is me. Life sucks.
Yeah.
You know, you ride that roller coaster too much. You know, life is too short to be on that roller coaster, man. You will wake up one day and like, damn, I just pissed away half my life.
That's what Rocket Fuel is all about. We don't play that game. Like we get that feeling in us, that setback feeling hits you sometimes, or when it does, it hits you in the chest and you're like, oh, as soon as we feel that feeling, man, we teach and train on like acknowledging right away, accepting, and then figuring out, looking for the opportunity immediately, because that's what it's there for. It's not to hurt you. Anytime that stuff happens, it's designed to wake your ass up, but you got to be ready for it and proactively understand that concept. So let me ask you a question. You glazed over holding a movie theater up at gunpoint. I want to hear a little. I never get a chance to talk to criminals that are past criminals, I should say. You're not a criminal now, but people that went through that and what went through their mind. Like, I'd love to hear what you were thinking at that time. Obviously, you're young and immature at that time. But do you remember it all? Like, what went through your head, and while you were doing it, what was going through your head, and afterwards?
Man, I remember it like it was yesterday. It's one of those, you know, things you'll never. It was a redefining moment in my life. Something I'll never forget until the day I die. And I always say, look, the movie theater got robbed. It was their fault. Of course, funny now, wasn't funny then, but I was a young person who was very disruptive everywhere I went. So when me and my buddies went into this movie theater, we didn't go in with the intention to rob the movie theater. What they did not know is that I used to wear this Louisville starter jacket, which represented the colors of our neighborhood. And in the back of that jacket, I sewed a towel into it, which housed this 44 Magnum I used to carry around, which was, the gun was bigger than me. You got a picture. I'm a skinny little white boy. I had a Jerry curl. I just, you know, I didn't, the neighborhood, I felt like I was dropped into a foreign land because I didn't really fit into the neighborhood. You know, the neighborhood looked way different than I did. But anyhow, the long story longer is we were disruptive. And then the guy came up and he said, look, you guys have to leave because you're disrupting everybody. And they had the flashlights to tell us to get out. And he basically, I said, okay, we'll leave, but I want my money back. And then he said, well, look at your ticket stub. It says no refunds. I said, well, then give me everybody's money back. And that was the beginning of a complete disaster, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up, you know, and next thing you know, the police I'm running through this parking lot. And then of course I'm caught. And then my good friends, you know, of course, right away everybody pointed at me, you know, all the big gangsters that, you know, would never talk were squealing like you know, little piglets to get out. So it was an interesting time for me. I learned a lot too, because I caught on very quickly people that I thought were my friends, you know, maybe were not so much. And it was difficult.
One thing I wanted to hear that, because now I understand something, and this is a great lesson in business and in relationships. But like, are you more worried about being right or being successful? And that goes for relationships, business, that situation right there. Like, what was the ticket money? Like $15 maybe. Like, it's like, are you more interested in being right and winning, or being successful and getting the hell out of there and living the rest of your life? Right. But these little lessons appear to us all. This is a big one with relationships, with marriages, dude. Marriages, people fight all the time in their marriage because they're more worried about being right than having a happy marriage and being, you know what I mean? So I'm glad you went over that with me.
We talk about all the time. I talk about with my kids. Would you rather be right or rich? And it's like, you want to make excuses or you want to make money. You can't make both. You're gonna have to choose a side and roll with that side until the end. So I love that you said that, because that's a common theme. And most of my young life was about being right. It was ego. It was like, you don't know me. I get all this stuff that led to, destruction all around me, wakes of destruction. And now I bite my tongue, man. I let people talk. I let them do what they want to do, say what I know where I am. I know what my principles are. I stay within those lines. I don't give a lot of lip service to it. I just keep rolling. And now I'd rather be rich than right.
It's all distraction. Yeah. It's all distraction. Yeah. So then from there, like when you were growing up, then, getting out of all that, and the guy said, "Hey, business." Dave said, "Business, man. Business is what was your first venture that you got into business wise?"
Well, so I wasn't completely, I still kept one foot in the hood, one foot out. At 24 years old, it was my final felony arrest. And sitting on the bullpen floor in the Milwaukee County Jail, I had stitches in my head because I had an altercation with the police as all this was happening. But two things happened. It was July 4th, 1993. So if you know how this court system works, which I know you do, and probably some of your audience members do, I knew I was not going to court for a while. It was a holiday weekend. So I sat on a bullpen floor, packed. I sat there for 4 days waiting to go to court in this miserable ass room. And two things kept replaying over and over in my mind. As I was being handcuffed and let out of my house, this time I have a 2-year-old daughter. And I look back and she's screaming. And she doesn't really know exactly what's going on. She just knows the house is in disarray and daddy's being let out by all these men. And I'll never forget, we must have caught eyes. Couldn't have been more than a second or two, but it seemed like a lot longer. But sitting on that bullpen floor, her face, crying, just kept replaying over and over and over in my mind. And the other thing, and now I have it tattooed on my arm, Dave used to say all the time, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And he said, he also went on to say it wasn't always about money. There was other things that were involved in that. And I didn't know where he got the quote from. It didn't matter to me, but it stuck to me. So when I'm sitting on that bullpen floor at 24 years old, my daughter's face screaming and crying, and a good man leaves an inheritance for his children. So here I am. I'm supposed to be a grown man. I can't even take care of the one daughter I got. Now I'm about to face potentially some serious adult, criminal time. And I was miserable, man. But here's how it is. If you ever drank too much and you're over the toilet and you're praying to God, just get me through this tonight and I'll never drink again.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I became that guy in the both. I'm praying in my mind, like, God, or whoever, Allah, Buddha, I didn't care. Whoever was out there, if someone's listening, get me out of this. And I will never, yes, I was a criminal. Yes, I was all these adjectives that people use to describe me, but I will not be that person. And when I finally got through that mess, which of course, how the justice system is, the wheels move slow. So it took a while, but eventually I got that behind me and I never got arrested again. I never did drugs again. And it became my mission in life to turn around. Now, sadly, it took me 7 years of being a good boy to crack $100,000 in a single year, man. It was my first year as a full-time entrepreneur. I only made $4,000, and I was out there trying to make stuff happen. But I had a price to pay. I paid a price when it came to incarceration, and I had to pay a price because of the deficit and the hole that I had dug for myself. My credibility wasn't there. All these things I had created a mess for myself. My first venture was a network marketing company because I was a janitor. I was working for General Electric as a janitor. Nobody, no respect, terrible job, scrubbing another man's toilets, paycheck to paycheck, miserable. And then a guy approaches me and tells me about this opportunity and that he thought I would be okay. I was shocked that he thought he was obviously lying, but I went to this meeting and they said, come on in. Well, I joined a network marketing company and I had no clue what that meant or what it was about, but I was introduced to a guy named Jim Rohn. And some people know Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins' mentor. Jim Rohn had an incentive to mentor me because if I made a sale, he got an override.
Right.
So it was an interesting dynamic that took place. I was being mentored by one of the greatest philosophers of all time. And then other people came into my life. but it really was the first time it was an equal opportunity. They didn't care about my background. They didn't care about any of that. Now, I didn't do so great in the beginning, but I had to push up all this negativity, and it was slowly disappearing. So 4,000 my first year, 16,000 the second year. The seventh year, though, I cracked $116,000. Then it was the eighth year, over 200. Then it went $1 million, then 2 million. Then I was bringing $250,000 a month residual income without rolling out of bed. And so, but nobody talks about that 7 years of pain. Me rolling through the neighborhood in my Pontiac 2000, 2-tone, 1-tone rust, 1-tone dirt. Nobody cared.
What was the product? What was the product back then?
It's funny because how it was a satellite, one of these big old analog dishes, and then you had to install it yourself, and you got one channel, and it was a personal development channel with like Les Brown, Zig Ziglar.
How did I never hear about that?
Dude, because it didn't work.
Damn.
Nobody cared, man. Nobody cared. I thought people, because I'm like, you mean I can get this information pumped into my living room? But no, apparently nobody wanted. But then here's what happened. That satellite company got bought by Primestar, so it turned into a digital deal.
Yep.
So now we could sell 4 HBOs. We could sell 3 Showtimes. It changed the game, man. We were putting up satellites all over the hood. Yeah. And because people didn't care about personal development, they cared about 4 HBOs.
So when it started cranking at 100,000 and then on from there, that was the same product?
No. So what happened is that company got bought by a company called Prepaid Legal, which was a legal insurance company. Of all things, me to be in a legal insurance company. And then I lost the majority of the people that were with me because they couldn't get, there was a licensing process. They had to get insurance, and half the people couldn't get through. I barely got through the thing. But that's where another area, I met a whole nother group of people. Paul J. Meyer, billionaire Paul J. Meyer, came into my life and really started, the art of giving, service to many leads to greatness. All these different, this was a billionaire. And I always thought, if you had big money, you were always like money, money, money. This was a guy in his 80s who was working 8 to 12 hours a day, but he gave away 100% of every dollar he made. He said he was working for one reason, and that was to give his money away because he got a selfish feeling of giving away, which I struggled with it for so long, but now I kind of get it, man. I get it, man. When you know how it is when you help somebody or lift somebody up, there's this weird, and he used to describe it as a selfish feeling that he had for giving stuff away.
It is, yeah. It was so Brian Crothers in that?
Yeah. He was the best man in my second wedding.
Brian Crothers. Get out, really? Yeah, because he's from Maryland here. I'm in Ocean City.
Oh, Maryland. Yeah. Brian and I used to be very close friends, and then he hated me when I left that company. Now we're on terms again. But people, it's a funny industry sometimes how people get if you decide to go another.
I'm in the mortgage industry. It's the same thing. Like we part ways sometimes. We're like, best of luck, but then you still just don't. Don't click with them. So, all right. So then you got into that and then started making it. And then were you good with money when you started making it? Cause you didn't come from a place that like,
do you mean, was I good with money in terms of like buying gold chains and rims?
Yeah. I was good with it that way.
Yeah. I was really good at getting rid of it as fast as I took it in. Like if I made 100,000, I was good at spending 200,000. So I was just broke at a higher level, bro.
Yep. And then when did that change?
That changed when the IRS called.
Yeah. That's a whole nother
problem. I realized, that pay Caesar first, pay Caesar his due. Yeah. And that money wasn't mine. So because you know how it is, you're an entrepreneur, I'm getting 100% of the money. Seems like, okay, I made that money. That's my money. And well, when the IRS came a calling and I owe them a big chunk, I started catching. That's when Robert Kiyosaki came into my life, not personally, but with his books. And one of the things he said, it was in Rich Dad Poor Dad, I believe, and he talked about getting a bookkeeper as one of the best investments ever. And I'm going to vouch for that because after that miserable experience, I got a bookkeeper because that's not me, man. I'm a fire, ready, aim, let's just go. And numbers were not my thing. So I got a bookkeeper that was just, I'm spending here, spending there. And then she would reel me in like, look, you got to do this. We got to start paying. And then we created an S Corp. And so then I was tied to a salary. So like, no, you're only getting this much per week. Yep. So you don't blow every nickel you've got. Right. And then I caught on like Paul J. Meyer. He used to talk about his money would get out of bed before he did. He put overalls on his money and what he was talking about is investments. And so I started really, when I was getting all this cash flow, I said, well, okay. And that's when I started buying businesses, publishing companies, mixed martial art, cage fighting companies, real estate company. I did everything, restaurants, nightclubs. So that's when I started getting better. I started taking my cash flow and putting it into businesses, which were either producing more cash flow or building equity for me that I was able to parlay into now major investments and things like that.
And what is in you that makes you want to keep going? Like what, because look, I know what's in me. I probably know the answer, but I just want to share it with the audience. Like when you wake up in the morning, you have enough that you could probably just do something, you know, come on, man. Like you do whatever you want. Right. But what keeps you going and building and creating?
Well, you know, it's shifted. And I had to think about this a lot because I'm launching a new company that I've put 8 months.
Talk about that too, by the way.
All right. So so I'm launching a new company, which at first I'm like, am I just a complete idiot to do this? Because I have a great life, man. I sleep until I'm done sleeping. I come and go as I want. We travel well when COVID's not messing with us. We do whatever we want. But I went through this 3-year stint of strip clubs, nightclubs, 5-6 nights a week, popping bottles, traveling all over the place, just thinking I'm a big baller. I really was an idiot. And I burned through tons and millions of dollars. And I got nothing. There was no fulfillment. I had a lot of leeches. I had a lot of hanger-oners, smooches, and got no fulfillment out of it. And I made a decision. It was 2016. It was my August 31st, was my birthday weekend. I was heading out to a club in our Old Town community here. And I made a decision before I went out that weekend. I said, this is my last weekend of doing this nonsense. I'm going to go party heavy for my birthday, and then I'm completely done with this life. And so for me, it was because I was starting to not like myself. I was doing all this shallow surface stuff, and I had all these shallow surface people around me. And I wanted to get back to impact. You know, I was like, I live for watching people. Like when I made $20 million, my team made $100 million. You know, I get a charge out of that. So I got back in the trenches, and a couple of things. I also have daughters. I told you I have 4 daughters. So they're a big driver for me. Like I want my daughters to be proud of me. I don't want my daughter, you know, my daughters know, they call me and say, Daddy, be careful. We know you're going to the club tonight. You know, I don't want my daughters to see me as that guy. And so I made a decision that I want to get back to what I do best. I want to do what's inside of me. I want my daughters to be proud of me. I want to help other people. I want to contribute. And that's why I even like my mentoring programs. We created mentoring programs, and I gave all my stuff away. I was like, you don't have to pay for my stuff. Matter of fact, now I'm mentoring people. I'm saying, look, I'll pay you for me to mentor you. Just join my company and we'll work side by side, and you'll get real life on e-commerce, drop shipping. You know what I mean? So I got this mission, man. I used to have this title that they would call us in one of our companies, the Millionaire Maker, because we had 220 million a year coming in. We were in 8 countries. South Korea was exploding. People were hitting this $1 million a year mark like crazy. But some of it went to my head a little bit, man. You know, that kind of money that fast, and you start to believe that you're something. And I just had to humble myself. And now I have it, you know, ego is the enemy. Well, you know, I'm getting old, bro, because I'm tattooing all this stuff on me just to remember, man. I'm like, okay, what do we? All right, yeah.
Yeah, you got any Zig Ziglars on you?
Man, I got so many quotes. And I don't even know what I got. Obsessed. It's just everywhere. Legacy.
Yeah. I love it, man. No, I love it. What was what's some 1 or 2 good lessons that you learned from Jim Rohn, like just off the top of your head right now?
Oh man, it's Jim Rohn changed everything. I have one of my tattoos right here, and it basically said, you know, let others live small lives, let others cry over small hurts, you know, let others complain, bitch, all that stuff, but not you. It's always, but not you. Let them do it. It's I learned tolerance. You know, which when you turn on the media, it seems like nobody's tolerant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We don't tolerate the other political party. We don't tolerate the other race. You know what I mean? And so I learned from Jim Rohn, you know, tolerance in a big way. Man, there's so many lessons. I learned duplication, which we now know as scaling.
Yeah.
And he taught me to simplify everything, to dumb everything down to its lowest counting out. Talk to people. Don't use big words to make yourself sound like you're because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. I started looking up words, and I'm using these weird words. They didn't fit my personality. My buddy's like, bro, don't drink the Kool-Aid, man. What's going on, man? So he taught me before we had to start teaching people on social media to be authentic, which is weird to me that we got to teach people this. He was really big on just be yourself. He says, look, Stop trying to be someone else. Be who you are. Some people, maybe a lot of people might not like it, but that you're not. It's not about them. It's about you being authentic, being who you're supposed to be here. And so those are some of the big lessons. Growth. You know, he always used to say things like, "There's a reason why they make those kindergarten chairs so small." You know, because you know we're expected to grow, but some people stay in that kindergarten mindset. So for me, a lot of it was around growth. Let's become something. And he would always say, you're gonna get about what you've become. So some people, their money grows above them. Like they get all kinds of money, but they didn't grow. Lottery. I think lottery winners are the great example.
Yep.
And it's not long before that it comes crashing back down to their mentality, or even worse.
Yeah.
So I learned always be growing as much as I can, moving forward.
I love that, man. Well, look, to wrap this up, first of all, before I get into my last question with you, how can my audience engage with you further?
Man, right now, look, I've canceled everything. I've sold a bunch of my companies, except for my private jet company, because I like flying on my jets. But almost everything else we've got rid of, because Snap Active Lifestyle is where I'm putting it all in, because I believe here, because we got an amazing ambassador program. We're bringing people in and we're teaching them the skills from financial literacy to scaling businesses, leadership, team building, all that. So that's where I'm focusing my energy. So if somebody's looking to make some supplemental income part-time from home, or they want to make some significant income, I believe we got the premier opportunity, because that's what our focus is. And we're bringing in a new technology, a delivery technology for health and wellness that people are blown away by. And we got about $10 million of infrastructure wrapped up in this. So we're not playing games here. But the best place to reach me on anything is probably Instagram. That's where I manage that myself. I engage with everybody there, and it's just at John.Malott, JOHN.MALOTT. I had to think about my last name for a second. I'm getting old.
Shit. What do you think? Look at my name. That's why I'm called C-Roc. Hey, so Snap, by the way, guys, it's actually a delivery system. The powder, whatever it is, the supplements inside of a Snap, it actually snaps, and then you can pour it. You can take it to the head like John does, like I do, or you can pour it in your bottle, your shaker. Probably, is that right? Did I say that? Right?
Yeah. We call them Snap Packs, man. You snap it, sip it, share it is our theme. Never snap alone.
And is it called Snap, like when somebody used to say, "Oh, snap"? Like
Snap. Yeah, it's playing on that too.
Yeah, I love it.
We're creating skits around it, man. We got some cool stuff. Memes are happening around it.
I love it, brother. I love it. Well, look, hey, I'd like to end the show with this, and the rocket fuel concept, and I call it a law now, just like John Maxwell's leadership laws. If you implement what I talk about with this rocket fuel, you become unstoppable. It's just a fact. So taking everything that's designed to stop most people, or people think it's going to stop them, slow them down, and converting it into rocket fuel by storing it in your tank instead of your trunk where it weighs you down. What has that meant to you in your life? We've heard a lot about it. I have an idea, but what does the rocket fuel law mean to you?
Well, it means, number one, integrity, for me now, doing what I said I would do, commitment, keeping my commitments, because there was a time where I didn't keep those commitments. That the paying it forward is probably the biggest thing for me now. It's like, with great wealth comes great responsibility. And I didn't catch that early on, if I tell you, C-Roc, you can have what I have, then it becomes my responsibility, not just to give lip service to it, but to say, let me show you the way, or let me clear the path, or I've already cleared the path, with the machete. You just got to get on the path. Dude, I love that rocket fuel, the whole concept. Because we're always talking about, within our organizations, we're always talking about, all we need is someone with a spark. If they got that spark, man, we can pour fuel on them. We can pour rocket fuel on them, and that spark, what it turns out.
Yep.
Guys like us that have, people that have come from either colorful backgrounds or interesting backgrounds, or maybe didn't have everything delivered on a silver platter. I believe that there's an advantage, and I think there's a fire there that, if it's ignited, man, the sky is definitely not the limit.
I love it. I love it. Hey, well, so I'm starting a rocket fuel lifestyle clothing brand's coming out soon, by the way. So I'm putting everything into this thing, man, and rolling with it, with everything. So I'm looking forward to working with you and developing this relationship we have, John. And by the way, guys, first of all, thanks for coming on the show, John. I appreciate you, man. Looking forward to working with you more in the future. Guys, go hit John up on Instagram, or look for the Snap brand coming out. It just launched this week. go support our list, our guests, guys. That's what I bring them on here for, to provide value to you. You go support them. And so thank you so much for listening to the What Are You Made Of show. Go subscribe on YouTube at Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco to watch these. Or if you just want to listen, go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe today. And the Rocket Fuel book is on its way out. Go to MikeCroc.com/book, MikeCroc.com/book. Until next time, be great.